Hello and welcome to Anchor Designs. I'm James, and if you're watching this link through the YouTube channel, thank you so much for taking the time to take a look at this product. So a very quick introduction to myself and the product. My name is James and I am a design engineer based here in the UK. This product is designed for a very ease of application for sharpening your lathe turning chisels. So everything is made here in the UK, and it is made completely of mild steel. Everything is metal on here apart from the little knob on the top. These kits come unpainted and they are very easy to use and get really good results on. So let's get started. Let's take a bit of a closer look of what you're going to get, a brief on how to use it, and any feedback will be fantastic. Let's jump straight into it. Okay, so let's take a look at this setup on our bench grinder. I'm using nothing fancy here. This is just a 6-inch bench grinder with an aluminium oxide wheel on here. I think this is an 80 grit. Eventually I will be upgrading to something like a CBN wheel, something like this. But this is going to work with every stone that you can kind of get, really. For something like this, when you've ground it in, the finer the better, really, because all we want to be doing is honing those surfaces. So let's take a look at the whole setup of this. So it's going to come with the base, which is very easily mounted with your 4 mounting holes here. You'll notice as well that this system is actually offset, and what that allows you to do is 2 things, really. One is to able to adjust these handles as easy as possible, so you can get your hand round here. There's no trying to adjust with a spanner under these tables here. As well as it being offset, what this allows you to do, especially on the smaller bench grinders, is that it's going to allow you to leave the safety guarding on here. So typically the larger style ones with using like box section and that type of thing, you'd struggle to use a 6-inch bench grinder unless you were to actually raise this up on a little bit more of a plinth. So with this design in particular, that's going to, most of the time, I can't guarantee for all bench grinders, as I'm sure you can understand, but that's going to allow you to, you know, install and play straight away. So let's take a look a little bit closer at these features on the side. So these are ratchet handles. So these are, I think they're aluminium, the metal handles anyway. And these are threaded, so they just require a 1/4 of a turn, and it's going to allow you to adjust the jig itself. When you're done here, you can just tighten these up 1/4 of a turn, and when you are installing this and you need to move these handles out of the way, you can just pull up these handles here, move round, and they will then lock back into place and move, etc. So you can just move these out of the way here, nice and easy. If you do need to tighten these up, these just use, I think, a 3mm Allen key on the top here, and you hold the Allen key while you adjust these round. So it's very easy to install, very straightforward. So let's look at the holder setup itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the holder itself. So all this is made completely of solid steel here. Both of these sides are 6mm and this is 4mm, and this allows us to actually bend these radiuses on here to assemble the jig. These are designed to have a V-block style where your actual chisel holder goes, and what this allows you to do is naturally be able to hold your chisel in flat to these points as possible. If you do want to ensure that, just a bit of a quick tip, what you can do is when you install this in here, is when you've lifted it up and you want those to push really tight down onto this top, the screw thread, you can just put like a 1p piece onto this, and that's just going to push those chisels, the 2 wings, nice and square and into place. So for adjusting the grind, for the actual angle that you're going to have, so if you're going to have a 40-degree angle, you're going to adjust with this, for example. And what this will allow you to do is, using this just on its own, is something for like a traditional spindle gouge, and you're going to be able to just sharpen that rake up there Nice and easy. If you're wanting to start getting into like a 40-40 grind or an Irish grind, then you'd use this jig setup here, and you would start to then grind to get that wing back on either sides. If you want to adjust your wing back angle, you're going to adjust these here, which are 2 Allen keys. So I've tightened these right up just for shipping purposes. But the more degree on the angle here, the more of a swept wing back that you're going to get. So I typically stick with kind of your fingernail slash Irish grind on here, and I'm just using a very basic bevel protractor. Not sure if I've got it with me. Something like this, or your more traditional style. I always recommend when using something like this is to try and use the full face of the grinding stone, and to then dress your stone after use. Mine does need a little bit of dressing on here, but they're very, very straight and easy forward to use. Another benefit to this jig is actually we've incorporated some line indicators on these points here. And this is quite nice for if you're using different kind of length chisels. So this will incorporate and allow you to use up to around a 500mm long chisel. So that's 1/2 meter long. If you're using just a standard spindle gouge, if you want to use any longer than that, then you'd use the jig, and it will allow you to use however long your workshop is. I've just used this here and used a Sharpie pen, and what this does is just gives me a rough indication of where my spindle gouge was, or my roughing gouge or bowl gouge is on here. So there's 3 of these points, and it might be worth just having that set up there for you. And in case you did get this and wondering what the sharp little points were at the side, that's what they're for. Installation of the jig itself is very, very easy. What you're going to want to do here is this point at the just in the middle of the chisel holder. You're going to want to align that just in the center of your wheel there, just to align that to be as straight as you possibly can. So whether you're wanting to sharpen a bit more of a longer chisel with a typical kind of 40-40 grind on here, you're going to be using this jig. So slide out, adjust, get that angle in there that you wish, and you're just going to be able to follow this round. What I'd do to start off with is I'll just get a Sharpie marker and colour in the tip of where you're going to want to sharpen, and then just rotate the wheel round, and that's going to just allow you, not to grind off too much of your chisel too quickly. And when you have got that nice and square and flat up here, it's just going to be a nice and quick way of getting that eye honed in. As well, we're using smaller chisels, so this is just a cheap and cheerful second-hand one that I bought, but I use this for pen turning. So if you're doing a lot of smaller work, this jig will handle your smaller style chisels. Where it does start to get a little bit difficult is if you've got a really short chisel here, you're going to struggle to put these angles on here, because you've got that length of the actual holder itself to take into consideration. Next off, if you're wanting to sharpen your more traditional spindle gouges, so something like this with a very, very basic bullnose grind on the front here, is you're not going to use the holder, you're just going to hold these up. Same principle again, use a Sharpie, colour this in, grind this round, and that's going to allow you to sharpen this up, and that's without using the chisel holder. Okay, so to summarise, these are the jigs that you're going to be receiving. Again, they aren't painted. These are subcontracted and then brought in-house for me to then do all the tapping, assembly, and inspection, check-off, etc. So some of the manufacturing process, the way that these are actually made is a thermal cut process. So it's manufactured by a very, very highly precision laser cutting machine. So naturally the edges are not going to be like a perfectly ground machine finish, and if you are expecting that, then this is not the jig for you, and fully painted and comes in a nice packaging. this jig just simply isn't for you. There are going to be some grinding marks here where there's been some welding. Everything is linished to the best possible that it kind of can. This is how I get them. I do a lot of deburring when I get them myself, especially on these in particular areas. Each and every one of these is fully inspected and made sure that chisels fit in them and they're aligned and square, etc. And our feedback on our eBay page is something that we're very proud of. So if you do have any problems, not that I think that you would, please do get in touch. Any questions you may have, I'll leave my email account on here. Everything does have to be done via eBay. Unfortunately, because it allows insurance and protection and all that type of thing. So again, if you do have any problems with these, not that I think you will, please get in touch with me first, because again, we're very protective of our feedback, etc. So yeah, these jigs, I've been using these, a more primitive one that I made some time ago, and I've sold over 10 of these. So this is the next batch of them, and I've not had one complaint, only really positive feedback so far. So I'm really pleased with these. It's something that I haven't thought of out of the blue. There are other options, there are cheaper options, and there are a lot more expensive options out there. But this is, completely made in the UK, very high standard of manufacturing, and a lot of thought have gone into these. As well with that, if you've got any ways that I can improve on these that we kind of haven't thought of already, get in touch. We are very much a small community here, but we do take anything on board that we need to. And I would just like to say thank you for everybody who has supported the channel so far, and everybody who is using one of these jigs. It's a real proud moment for us here at Anchor Designs, and we are massively appreciative of that. And there's not a real lot I can kind of say on these. These are now going to be up for sale on the eBay account. These do take a lot of time to make and cost quite a bit, so they are around that £75 mark. I have tried to negotiate with higher quantities with this batch in particular, if I can bring that price down, and unfortunately just the actual margin and the time that these take, I cannot get that any further down. But what I will say is you are buying a very well made product. Again, they need looking after. You will need to oil them or paint them, whatever you want to do. The reason why I haven't painted these is because A, again, the cost, and B, there's a lot of moving sliding components on these. So it's very difficult to paint these to then have a very high standard. You could powder coat these if you wanted to, but again, are people going to want to pay maybe £150, £200? And when you're getting into that kind of area of money, it soon becomes unattractive. So if you do have one of these, please do share feedback with us. If you are interested in one of these, then please do head over to my eBay account. They will be in the description. And again, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Thank you.